Hi, Tracy from Kazadans Equestrian. Welcome to this week's video. And this week I'm going to talk about horses and how much movement they need. So there's no doubt that we keep our domestic horses in a vastly different environment than they were evolved to be living in, or vastly different to what our wild horse species live in today. Lack of movement of our domestic horses causes and contributes to some poor health conditions and actually even some serious systemic diseases, as well as poor hoof quality and health. So much of this can be helped and assisted by allowing the horse to move more in its daily environment. Now, this can be quite difficult under some of our modern management regimes. However, I feel like it's up to us as horse owners to think a little bit more outside the square and work out how we can fulfill this movement need of our horses. So, a horse left to its own devices in the wild can travel 10, 20 more kilometres per day. Why do they travel so far? Well, they need to travel further to look for food, to vary their grazing, and look for sources of water. In our modern society, we don't even just provide it all in a small pasture, we put it all into a container and a hay bag, and they only need to go to that one spot for their food. So horses left to their own devices will actually move, 8 to 10, and sometimes with desert horses up to about 50 kilometres away from their water source. And then they will return to that water source by doing 12 hours straight walking to get back to where they need to be able to have a drink. So how does this compare with the amount of movement that our domestic horses have, even both pasture and stabled? At pasture, even in a herd environment, in a large paddock, even up to about 40 acres, a pastured horse will only still travel between 5 and 6 kilometres a day. And obviously, this figure is much less for stabled and yarded horses. So, somehow, irrespective of how we want to manage our horses, we really do need to address this movement problem and start to think of ways to improve this. It's horses' innate behaviour to walk and graze. So, if this isn't something that you've already got included into your management regime, see if there's a way you can work out, no matter how your horse is kept, that they need to move between food and water. It's a really simple thing to do to increase your horse's daily movement. So somehow we need to fulfill this requirement in our horses a little bit more, no matter what circumstances you are keeping them in. There are well documented equiculture systems, paddock paradise systems that you can have a look at that give you some really lovely ideas on getting your horse moving. Sometimes this is sometimes it doesn't encourage enough movement still, and sometimes can be a little bit damaging to your land as well. It's really hard to manage the balance between keeping forage on your property, land management, and allowing your horses to move. Especially at some of these, like in South Australia here, we're in spring at the moment, there's a flush of grass. So a lot of us tend to lock our fatty horses up to reduce their sugar intake, and as a consequence, we're reducing their movement even more. It's lack of movement that sometimes contributes to this weight problem. And so when they have it, we're taking the movement away. There's got to be another way for us owners to be able to think about this. So, what I'd really like everybody to do watching this video is actually have a think about, does my horse genuinely get enough movement for its health, for its mental health, its stimulation, as well as physical health? One of the questions that I really do like to be able to ask myself, and I invite you to ask yourself, is if I'm seeing my horse for 1 to 2 hours a day, what is my horse doing for the other 23 hours? So, what is your horse up to during the time you're not there? There is so much focus on what we do when we're with our horse, how to treat them humanely, how to ride them correctly without welfare issues, but what is your horse doing for the other 22 to 23 hours of the day? This question has been raised. This is one of my books. I think I've done a review. If I haven't, I will do a review on this book, Equine Behavior in Mind. It's been edited by Suzanne Rogers, but it has a lot of contributors. During the time you're not there, there is so much focus on what we do when we're with our horse, how to treat them humanely, how to ride them correctly without welfare issues. But what is your horse doing for the other 22 to 23 hours of the day? This question has been raised. This is one of my books. I think I've done a review. If I haven't, I will do a review on this book, Equine Behavior in Mind, edited by Suzanne Rogers, but it has a lot of different contributors. It's a great book to have a read. Really question how we're managing our horses these days. But as a start, how about everybody ask themselves, what is my horse doing for those other 23 hours a day? And what can I do as an owner to improve those 23 hours? Thanks for listening. Hope it's given you a little bit of food for thought. If you've got any ideas, wow, feel free to pop them down on the comments section in the YouTube or on my Facebook page. Thanks for listening to this week's rant. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you do get notified when I release a new video. Please share this around. This is information that all horse owners should be considering and thinking about. So share it around to all your friends. Click like on the video and I'll speak to you next week.